Hello and welcome. My name is Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UFO, UAP news from everywhere and anywhere. So I've noticed a lot of interest in Antarctica lately. On the subreddit RUFOB, one Seaworthiness 951 posted this imaging of Antarctica, and he says, Antarctica has blurred images on Google Earth and unnatural geographic structures identified. Then I saw this on UAM TV. Apparently, NASA's new ANITA program has detected bizarre, unexplained radio signals emerging from beneath Antarctica's ice. Some defy known physics, hinting at possible alien origins or unknown particles interacting deep within Earth's frozen depths. And if you couple that with new information leaked by whistleblowers, we have on our hands something extraordinary, folks. A recent high-altitude balloon mission, which is what ANITA is, has done the unthinkable. It's detected radio pulses not from space, but from deep below the ice, climbing at steep angles that shouldn't exist. These are radio signals rising 30 degrees above the horizon, signals that, according to our best physics, ought to be impossible. And here's the kicker. This has happened multiple times. Sharp upward-facing signals caught not once, but again and again. A former contractor for Raytheon, the defense giant that runs key infrastructure at the South Pole, has stepped forward with claims that take this mystery to the next level. The whistleblower describes watching cargo, sealed, unmarked, being moved with urgency under cover of polar storms. Staff were told to stay indoors. That's kind of strange. External cameras were blacked out. Whoa. The excuse given is routine upgrades. That's unusual for a routine upgrade. But the timing aligned exactly with ANITA's detections. How about that? Something changed after those signals, he said. Suddenly areas were restricted. Flights were redirected. Civilians were rotated out. The whistleblower says that he's worked high clearance contracts before. That wasn't science in his opinion. That was military. He claims that personnel from unknown branches of government wearing no insignia arrived and worked in teams separate from regular researchers. He overheard mentions of directed energy systems, geophysical scanning, and most bizarrely, harmonic amplification, and perhaps strangest of all, a project nicknamed simply The Vault. Some have dismissed these claims as conspiracy-fueled fantasy, but others aren't so sure, because throughout history, Antarctica has been surrounded by secrecy and myth. Ancient maps appear to depict the continent centuries before its official discovery, complete with details of an ice-free coastline. Operation High Jump in 1946 sent thousands of U.S. troops to the frozen South for reasons still debated, and Nazi expeditions remain shrouded in mystery, with rumors of subterranean tunnels, hidden bases, and contact with something non-human. Could the anomalous ANITA signals be echoes of ancient technologies buried under the ice? Could they be tapping into something not just extraterrestrial, but ultra-terrestrial? There's growing speculation that what ANITA detected wasn't a particle at all, but a signal, a message, or a burst of energy from deep underground, not caused by neutrinos from the cosmos, but by something moving beneath the continent. Some physicists have said that they're coming from the Earth's core. Although we know some of the Antarctic's secrets, there are many more. What if it's hiding something? Something not just strange, but monstrous. On February the 14th, 2021, an anonymous post appeared on 4chan's paranormal board. The user, calling himself Son of Anton, claimed his father, a military doctor stationed at McMurdo Base in the 1990s, had seen things no one was ever meant to talk about. This is the original post. Some background. His dad was a doctor. He was stationed at McMurdo for 11 months in the 1990s. He's not saying what year because he was the only doctor there, so it should be fairly obvious if you give the year. And he might be tracked down then. So, first and foremost, there were some areas where people just didn't go, he said. They weren't environmentally hazardous. They were just places they wanted you to avoid. So, what was out there, according to the post? Okay, so get this. Supposedly 5-legged spider-like creatures were spotted, but only at night. Their strides spanned 30 to 40 human steps. And this guy's father had Polaroids. Like to see those. There were also eyewitnesses, but every single one had been warned to stay silent. One night, his father treated a man covered in deep lacerations, babbling nonsense. Quote, "They were frozen. We thought they were dead," end quote. He screamed until guards stormed in and tried to gag him. The doctor objected. The man needed oxygen. The guards didn't care. The man disappeared within hours. The next morning, Anton's father was locked in his room until the incident was handled. No report, no explanation, just a warning, and that was just the beginning. Later, while out driving across the ice with fellow staff, they struck something alive. When they stepped out, they saw a creature, like something from a horror film, spindly legs, fleshy, half insect. It was dead, crushed by the vehicle. But before the doctor could react, he was shoved back in the car and ordered to forget what he saw. The story escalates. He claimed bodies kept turning up, military and civilian, torn limb from limb, thawed out and flown home. Many of the bodies belonged to men no one had ever met. Arctic warfare officers, they were called. But no one knew who they were or why they kept dying. And then came the journal. While working on a dead researcher, Anton's father found a notebook in the man's pocket. Inside were detailed diagrams of creatures that did not exist. When he asked a colleague about them, she froze. Hours later, he was summoned and given a final warning: shut up or get shipped home. But curiosity had taken hold. One day, with his commanding officer away, he broke into the man's quarters and found hundreds of classified documents, operations, excursions, biological experiments. It was there. The base, he said, was involved in genetic warfare, creating weaponized hybrids engineered using DNA from ancient life forms preserved in the ice. Whoa! He had stumbled into something massive, something global, and that's when they came for him. He was detained, interrogated, and told he would be sent back to the U.S. within the week. But he wasn't done yet. He spent every remaining moment documenting everything. Then, just days before his flight out, another man, a soldier named Jones, burst into his room. He had just returned from a mission and needed to talk. Jones described a facility, a laboratory, hidden beneath the ice. He said it wasn't American, it was Chinese, or at least partly, and what they found inside defied belief. Get this, there were cages, tunnels, broken glass, blood, bodies, and strange flickering equipment that looked decades ahead of anything they'd seen. The deeper they went, the worse it got. Jones claimed the tunnels housed bullet trains with destinations marked as Hong Kong, London, New York, Melbourne. He said it was a global network, a hidden infrastructure stretching beneath the continents. They were creating bioweapons spliced from ancient DNA and raised in secret outside the reach of law or morality. They spent 18 hours clearing the facility. What they saw haunted them. Anton's father kept records, files, testimony, all stored on an old Apple IIe in their home. But soon after Anton began sharing his story, he vanished. No follow-up, no second post, just silence. Some say it was a hoax, a creepy made-up story, but others believe Anton and his father uncovered something real. Now, the most outlandish claim ever about Antarctica is the claim surrounding Operation High Jump, a United States operation which took place in early 1947. The United States had learned of an already established base of the Third Reich in the frozen world of Antarctica, a base, incidentally, that also had an alien presence. The operation was led by highly respected naval officer Rear Admiral Richard Byrd, and it would be Byrd's own writings and testimony that would seemingly reveal the real reasons for the mission. On the afternoon of February the 19th, 1947, Byrd took to the skies for a reconnaissance flight over the frozen continent. However, according to his diary notes, flight entries, and press conferences he would give in the days and weeks following the flight, instead of seeing thick, rugged sheets of ice, he found himself looking down on lush, green vegetation, as well as mammoth-like beasts and other animals that he claimed shouldn't have been there. He would elaborate that he found himself looking at a huge opening and that when he followed it, he found himself inside the earth itself. It appeared he was flying over a huge city as he entered a mammoth cavernous opening. Then things turned even stranger. He claimed that something took over his plane, while at the same time, a voice came over the radio, bidding him welcome. It had, he recalled, a strong Nordic or German accent. He further noticed several round, circular-shaped objects approaching him. His plane was brought to land on the ground, and several tall, blond-haired men approached his plane. His last flight note declared that a voice from outside his plane was ordering him to open the cargo doors, and his men were accompanied to a large building where they were served drinks unlike anything they had previously tasted. He then claimed to have met with a representative of a race that resided in the inner earth. They told him that they had been allowed to enter unharmed as they were aware of his noble character. He would further reveal that the bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima had created concern among their kind regarding the human race, and that they now felt compelled to intervene should such an event appear likely in the future. Perhaps most alarming of all is Admiral Byrd's claim that the United States had to prepare for an attack from objects that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Whether we should take Byrd at his word or treat his claims with a pinch of salt remains open to debate. It is perhaps interesting, though, that he was hospitalized only days after his press conference. And furthermore, despite his renowned reputation, he was never again allowed to speak publicly. Now, that's certainly odd. Sounds like he was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement, in my opinion. So he was never allowed to speak publicly about his experiences again, at least in an official capacity. In his writings around a decade later, Byrd would write that he had been ordered to remain silent on his encounter for the sake of humanity. While the claims of Richard Byrd were one of the first mysterious events surrounding Antarctica, one of the most recent is no less mysterious or thought-provoking. It occurred at some point in the late 1990s or early 2000. deep below the Russian research facility, Vostok Station. It has long been suspected by scientists that a great lake of water flowed below the ice, since the base had been first established in 1957. The presence of the lake under the sheets of ice was finally confirmed in 1993, after 3 decades of tests and experiments by both Russian and British scientists. What is further interesting about Lake Vostok is that scientists believe its environment is very similar to that on Europa, one of the main moons of Jupiter, and a celestial body that many believe could well harbor life. And it didn't take long for the scientists with an interest in studying Europa to turn their attention to the lake under Vostok Station. It also didn't take long for conspiracies and alleged leaked documents to find their way into the public domain. The general thrust of the claims are that a secret, ultra-specialized elevator was painstakingly installed through the thick ice and eventually down to the environment below, including Lake Vostok. Furthermore, according to a whistleblower, testimony from someone who claims to have worked on the project, Dr. Anton Padulka, who once sought sanctuary in Switzerland, allegedly abandoning the operation, Padulka claims the team discovered a 14-armed octopus in the waters of Lake Vostok. The octopus was unlike anything they'd previously seen. According to Padulka, not only did this being seem to have superior intelligence to a standard octopus, it could paralyze a person with its venom from 150 feet away. Wow, sounds like the creature from Independence Day. Even more remarkable, it had the ability to change its form and mimic a number of other aquatic creatures. Wow! By the time the research team had realized it could also assume the form of a person, whoa, and mimic the crew, it was too late to save one of the biologists from being ripped to pieces by this apparent alien life form. It was eventually captured, whereupon Russian military officers arrived at the base and confiscated it. Its whereabouts now is unknown, but rumblings among the crew were that there would be attempts to weaponize the alien DNA of the unsettling aquatic alien, which would ultimately lead Padulka to publicly reveal what he knew. That creature that they found in Lake Vostok sounds quite dangerous. Hopefully it was just lashing out because it had been trapped. I certainly wouldn't want to run into it. It also makes one wonder, what else are they hiding that's underneath the ice in Antarctica? My name is Al Barrows. This has been UFO Disclosure. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.